Hey everyone! Now, I've been involved in both long-term and short-term rentals for probably the last 13, 14 years, ever since I was 21 years old. And actually, just this past year, I added the largest rental property to my portfolio, which isn't that large in the grand scheme of things, but definitely a lot larger than the rest of my properties in my portfolio. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, nearly 2,000 square foot home, where typically I stay around the 2-bedroom, 1 to 2-bath, and floating around just 1,000 square feet. And after just half a year, I've decided that I will never, ever purchase, invest, or manage another large rental property. Slap hands, bump this, let's do this. So you want to be a landlord and you want to make money. Totally doable. Here at another property of mine, renters coming in pretty soon, and look what I found. What the how do you crack that? So today I'm not gonna ask you to sub, but if you want to, you can sub right here or just that big red button just down below. But I wanna ask you more of a question. Tell me, what part of the country are you in and what's your market like? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it lukewarm? And more importantly, what's the Airbnb market like? Is it saturated, undersaturated? You don't even know what Airbnb is? Oh yeah, and don't forget, if you like these videos, help me out and give me a thumbs up. Thanks. All right, back to it. So you're probably wondering what's wrong with larger homes, especially for probably a couple of you out there. You probably have very successful larger homes that you're renting out right now. The reason that I found is due to a double-edged sword called foot traffic. Any landlord or property manager worth their salt understands that foot traffic tends to be a good thing in the sense that it means high occupancy rates. There are two problems with this though that are directly applicable to a larger house or property. More bedrooms equals larger groups equals more of a chance of things to go wrong or things to get damaged. And on top of that, wear and tear is magnified. And perhaps every property manager's nightmare, parties. When there's large groups or parties going on in your house or your property, it brings unwanted attention to you and the home. This risks annoying neighbors, having authorities called, or having officials alerted of your property. The second key thing, and what I really want to focus on today, are damages. When you bring in a large group of people, there's some weird mob mentality. People tend to care less about the home that they're staying in. It's like, what do they call it? It's the passing of responsibility. What do you call it? The dissemination of responsibility? I think that's what it's called. Passing the buck. Somebody else is responsible for it. So what ends up happening, nobody's responsible for it. And that's what I found managing this property. And the thousands of guests that I've hosted across my portfolio in the last decade, every once in a while I'll get a phone call that something broke, whether it's a wine glass, some plates, or the toilet stopped working or something along those lines. And no more than maybe 10 cases in the last decade, give or take maybe 1 or 2. The thing is it's rather infrequent. And the reason behind this is because I'm typically hosting just a single couple or maybe at most 2 couples, so for a total of 4 people. However, in less than 6 months, the average number of people that stayed at this property with 4 bedrooms is 7 people, 7 guests, almost double or triple what I'm used to with my other properties. What has happened is not only have I had way more issues in the last 5-6 months, it's also the severity and the seriousness of the damages and the issues that came up. And before you guys get to it, no, it's not from the lack of screening. If you have seen any of my previous videos about short-term rentals and Airbnb business, I'll link one right here. I'm always talking and emphasize that you go through the review process, you speak to your tenants by phone. I even have a secondary signed rental agreement with my tenants. The problem, however, lies within the customer base that the property attracts on in itself. In the past half year, I've had no less than at least 3 drain clogs because of people flushing or putting stuff down the drain that they shouldn't. I've had 2 broken toilet handles, damages to our porcelain tub, somebody actually shattering a bathroom sink, falling into a utility closet door and ripping it out of its tracks and damaging the metal framing, cracking and destroying our Nest thermostat, and the worst of it all happening just this past week when I had to go to the property and repair fire damage. Yes, actual fire damage on our front porch where a cigarette wasn't put out properly and part of the deck caught on fire. Now here's the zinger of it all. Our properties are all non-smoking, so that means someone clearly broke the rules of smoking on the premises. The second thing is this happened at 3 a.m. with 3 small children sleeping within the rental unit. And the only reason why it was caught, it was somebody driving by, saw the fire, went up, pounded on the door, and woke up our guests to come out and actually put it out. Now, if this fire had gone on another 15, 20 minutes, it would have burned down the entire front deck and started on the home itself, becoming completely uncontrollable. So what this means to me is this is no longer about numbers, dollars and cents. This is now taking into account the lives and the safety of my tenants, and then also the surrounding neighborhood and the neighbors. Now, in an over a decade of doing this is by far the most serious thing that I've had happen, but this is on top of everything else that has happened on this property the last 5 months. It has nothing to do with the location of itself. It's a safe neighborhood, it's actually a really good area, and it's just outside of our city here. But I'm more convinced that this is purely based on the number of people. When you start extrapolating out the number of folks that are coming in and out, you start having more issues, and then that disbursement of responsibility tends to happen. This has been a great experiment to see how that occurs when you rent out to large groups of individuals who are coming into town to either party, celebrate, or have large gatherings and functions. Now, in this case, we've had everything as small as clogged drain, which isn't a huge deal, it's still a headache, all the way to potential life-threatening fire. Now, mind you, this doesn't include all the average to poor renters that slip through the cracks and they leave the place a pigsty, they might stain pillows or sheets or towels, and then all those other little miscellaneous ordeals that happen too when you have larger groups of individuals. And then one thing that I've noticed through Airbnb is that the age group for Airbnb is significantly lower than any other booking site such as VRBO and HomeAway, almost by half. So I'd say the typical age group for the folks that book through VRBO and HomeAway are usually in their 40s and up. In Airbnb, it's way below that, typically in their 20s, maybe 30s. So not to sound ageist or anything, but I just believe based off of my information and my experience, younger folks are coming into town to experience new things, party, have fun. The more mature guests are looking to visit kids, family, and explore the area in a different way. Now, the stressful thing of it all, real clincher of why I decided to stop altogether, I'll still hold on to this property, but I'm not gonna move forward into larger properties anymore because 8 out of 10 issues that arise when renters damage something, they do not alert me until day of, or I have to find out from my cleaners or manager or myself when we're walking through the property. I'm still trying to figure this out why that happens, and maybe some of you guys out there are psychologists or sociologists or whatever it is where you study the human mind. You guys can tell me why people tend not to tell the landlord or the property manager when they've damaged something. And it's not something like they can hide, it's something that's clearly visible where a door's hanging off the hinge. There's a hole in the sink. It's obviously more beneficial if I'm told ahead of time because I can work with that individual, replace things, or even plan out somebody to come and fix it. And what makes it really complicated logistically is when we have another guest coming into town to stay at the home that same day, and we only have a few hours to fix or remedy the issue. Now, so far to be fair, all of the guests, because of the careful screening, anyone who's really caused major damage, they've been more than happy, not happy, but they have been very quick to compensate and reimburse us for the damages done. And the few cases where it's the younger folks, typically they're college students or whatnot, who damage like sheets, towels, or they leave the place a pigsty, they don't end up paying it. Airbnb does compensate us. The problem with this though is it's a long drawn out process, and it's just another level of stress that we have to manage to make sure that all the details are getting done. Now, the real fortunate thing is that I happen to be well experienced in fixing things, anything from electrical to plumbing to carpentry to finish work. So I'm not scared off by the work that has to be done. However, this type of drop everything, go fix it right now type of emergency is not something that I want to make part of my business or a habit. It's not conducive to running things efficiently or effectively. And so even though we're still making good money and good profitability off the property, my time and my attention, stress levels, it's not worth it. And with all of that wrapped up, with being a larger home, cleaning is a bigger challenge. You require more furniture and supplies to help get it started and up off the ground. Maintenance and larger utility bills are always there. All of this has convinced me to stick to the tried and true way of what I've been able to niche into, the smaller rentals, where it can host a couple, maybe 4 people at the most, but no longer am I investing or buying property that can host or rent out to 6 to 10 people anymore. But with all that said, everything happens for a reason, both in life, entrepreneurship, business, It's all a good learning lesson learned. And the silver lining here is that the property is really profitable. Right now, I'm just more complaining about more of the stress that it has caused more than the money issue, but still, it's more of a time and energy suck than I want to put into any single property. So I hope you pulled something valuable away from today's video. And if you did, and you think somebody else might be able to benefit from it, feel free to copy the URL of this video and then text it to them or Facebook it to them, whatever's easiest. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Check out my other videos about my new Tesla, my other rentals, or how I manage my money, or just general minimalism and essentialism within its own right. If you haven't, hit me up down below, say hello, tell me what your rental market's like. Otherwise, I'll see you on my next video. Love you all. Peace out.